listening to WCEG Network on Smart TV, Roku, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the WCEG Network. I am William Bill Edwards, your host for Wisdom Wednesdays. I have a very special guest with me today. He is my Morehouse brother, my fraternity brother, my friend, and most importantly, he's my doctor. And that is Dr. Millard Collier, who we're going to discuss the topic today of good health, the key to long life. Dr. Collier, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Bill. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here because we like to give out information, and I like to call it infotainment. So we're going to tell everybody what they need to do to not only live a long life, but a long and healthy life. And that is the key. Nobody wants to live a long life, but they're infirm in a wheelchair. They can't walk. They can't control their bodily functions. Everybody wants to live a long time, but they want to be healthy while doing so. So it's not a big secret to it. There's just a few things people need to do.
You know, public health is always a big topic right now in communities. And the last 3 shows I'm having today, I'm going to have with doctors to talk about specific things in public health. But I got a question for you already that someone has already asked me. I'm going to ask it to you.
Go ahead.
Your background, they made your LinkedIn, and they want to know what is the meaning of the HiphopDoc.
Okay. When I first started doing radio many years ago, I was guesting on the local show with Ryan Cameron on V103, and he had what he called HiphopDoc Week, and I was the first one, and so he labeled me the HiphopDoc, and I absolutely hated it. But I was literally at a service station one day putting some gas in my car, and I got a phone call. So while the fuel was being pumped into the vehicle, I answered the phone call, and the guy next to me, he said, "Hey, I recognize your voice." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, the HiphopDoc." And so, so the people liked it. So I just adopted the moniker. I actually own that now. I've trademarked the HiphopDoc.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Doc.
Well, Bill, I'm a native Atlantan. Grew up in Southwest Atlanta. Went to D.M. Thurl High School, and then Morehouse College. The best 4 years of my life, bar none. Played Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated while at Morehouse. Then left Morehouse to go to the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta, home of James Brown. Okay, finished there. Came back to Atlanta to the Morehouse School of Medicine at Southwest Community Hospital, which at that time was the premier hospital for middle class and upper middle class Blacks. So I was ended up being the chief resident there in the Department of Family Medicine. But my big interest was surgery, and particularly OBGYN. So I delivered more babies there and had more high-risk OB experience than any doctor in residency or on faculty, because they didn't like doing that, and I loved doing it. And I came in with more experience because in Augusta I had delivered hundreds of babies. So that was my plan ultimately, to do that, to be a family physician that also did OB. But a lot of things, with the politics of medicine, the OBGYNs didn't want a family doctor doing deliveries. So it was difficult to get privileges to do that, even though while I was at the hospital and the chief resident, I literally could do anything I wanted to do and did, and covered for a lot of the same guys that later wouldn't give me privileges to do deliveries because, it was economics. They didn't want, to have to fight that battle. So I do primary care now, but I also while I was in Augusta, I did additional training in sports medicine at the Houston Clinic in Macon. And during that time when I was training, I had the opportunity to participate in the surgery that changed basketball as you know it. Now, right now, the NBA basketball, if you ruptured your Achilles tendon, that was a career-ending injury. Yeah. And that happened to Atlanta Hawks human highlight film, Dominique Wilkins. He ruptured his Achilles tendon. And so a new technique was developed to repair that. That was amazing, because prior to that, they would just put some copper wire in there and hope that it held together. But it was strong, but it wasn't strong enough to play basketball. But with Dominique's surgery, that changed everything. And of course, he had a long career, continued to be high flying and dunking and all those things that he did. And now it's a standard operation. It's kind of like Tommy John surgery for the baseball players. This is a Achilles tendon repair for any sport, really. But it seemed to be prevalent amongst the basketball players. So that sparked my interest in surgery and sports medicine. And so I did that. At one point, I was chief ring physician for boxing for the state of Georgia. And I also was the medical director for the Olympics in Atlanta when they were here in 1996. I did 3 venues: basketball, boxing, and amazingly enough, at Wolf Creek, shooting. And shooting was the #1 most abused sport. They did more drugs in shooting than any other sport. They wanted to slow their heart rates down and their breathing so they could take shots between breaths and heartbeat. So that was incredible. So, you learn a lot about the medicine, the art of sports medicine during the Olympics.
So, Doc, we got families these days, not just individual. Dr. Bennett was on last week or so and was talking about African-American men and their plight in terms of going to see the doctor. The families, Doc, what is it they need to know, and what myths do they kind of linger in that keep them from coming to the doctor?
Well, this is part of the problem, Bill. Women and are orientated to go to the doctor at a very young age. When they start a menstrual cycle and they start going to the doctor so that they can prevent pregnancy or go through a pregnancy. And so they're orientated quite early at an early age to go to the doctor, whereas men are not. They might get a physical if they're participating in sports, but oftentimes that physical is just laying the stethoscope on the chest and saying, yes, you're breathing, and you're clear to play baseball, football, or whatever. It wasn't a comprehensive physical. And so because they're really not orientated to health care, if they didn't go to the military, they didn't get a discharge physical. So they really would go through most of their adult life. And the only time they would now go to the doctor is when they were in crisis. Ergo, they couldn't go to work or they couldn't do what they normally would do during the daytime. And so they would then reluctantly go to the doctor. And that is why it's very important that we orientate young men to go to the doctor, get comprehensive physical examination so they know what it's like to actually be touched, felt, and examined by a doctor. And then to continue that tradition after they become adults. I use the analogy. I say, give your body the same attention that you do your car, because every young man that I know has a vehicle that he keeps shiny. He keeps armor all on the wheels. He keeps he takes a cotton ball and cleans the vents, does everything to keep that car straight, but does not take care of his body that way. So I say, plan on getting your tune up and your oil changed at least every 6 months with a comprehensive physical examination starting in adulthood. And then if you have something that needs to be treated, if the doctor tells you you have high blood pressure, or the doctor tells you that you have high cholesterol, then embrace the need for treatment. I saw a patient today. The first thing they said, I don't want to take any medicine. Their blood pressure was so high that I told them it was in stroke range. And the cholesterol, I had the blood work back. Their cholesterol was 100 points higher than it should have been. And so I say, well, what can I do naturally? Nothing. There are some things you can do naturally that would help, but nothing that's going to control those disease states. You're going to have to embrace the need to actually take a pharmacological product. So I state them, I say, to have a good outcome, Bill, you have to have a partnership between your provider and the patient, with the agreement that our objective is to optimize your health. We want to make sure that you do things you can live with, and I do things that I can live with as far as taking care of your concern, and that we come to an agreement as to what's the best thing for you to do. I have patients that smoke. Of course, I recommend that they don't smoke or that they stop smoking. But if they enjoy smoking, they continue to smoke, I have to work around that. I just have to educate them on what the lifestyle will be in 20 years if they continue to smoke compared to if they stop now and the benefits thereof. But the disease processes that we are challenged by as African Americans are what's called the metabolic syndrome. That's 3 diseases. That's high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol. Those 3 things together occur most often in African Americans. They put you at high risk for having a heart attack or a stroke, which is what kills Black people. Black people die from heart attacks and strokes. So nobody dies from diabetes per se at this point. Your blood sugar can be, a normal blood sugar is less than 160 non-fasting, less than 100 fasting. Your blood sugar can be 800 and you can be in a diabetic coma. And I can get you out of that in 6 hours in the hospital, 3 hours sometimes, and save you. That's not the problem. The problem is the damage that the diabetes does to your body on a cellular level, which predisposes you to have an event. That event being a heart attack or a stroke. And that's what either totally damages your lifestyle. If you survive it, you are compromised for the rest of your life. But if you don't survive it, then now you challenge the family structure. So we got a lot of young, what I would say, young middle-aged Black men that are dying from heart attacks and strokes, or the high blood pressure does such damage to their kidneys that they're on dialysis. You ever go to a dialysis center, all you see are young Black men. And so that, and when you're on dialysis, you're on disability. You can't work because all you do is get dialysis 3 times a week. So that changes the whole culture of the family. So now, instead of being the head of the family and the breadwinner, you got a man who's on disability now and on dialysis and can't function as the head of the family if he survives. Again, if he has a heart attack or a stroke, he may die. Now we have a young, middle-aged female, the mom in the family, who doesn't have a partner and has children that she's got to take care of. So the whole family dynamic is disrupted by this disease state. And all we have to do is keep the men healthy. So that became my mission when I completed my training at a very young age. I say, my job is going to be to keep Black men healthy and functioning and having a long and healthy life, and staying and keeping these families intact and allowing our culture and society to improve and grow.
Now you're what they call a family practitioner. What portion of your practice do you say that you're a doctor for the whole entire family?
I take care of men, women. I take care of adult men and women, adolescent children. I used to take care of babies I used to take care of babies and then throughout, but I stopped seeing babies now. So the youngest child that I take in my practice is an adolescent around 11 or 12. But I take care of the entire family, and that helps tremendously because most women are matriarchs of the family, and they're the medical managers of the family. They take the children to the pediatrician to get their immunizations. They take the husbands to the doctor. The husband won't come. The wife can always make him come. And if he comes, he's not going to tell me what's really going on with him and what's wrong. She's going to tell me, oh, no, he's doing this and he has this problem and he can't do this. All of these things. So it's good to have the wife in or the partner in the room when we're talking, so that I can get the rest of the story. Like Paul Harvey used to say, I get the story, then I get the rest of the story.
It's also important that when a person visits his physician, and that the physician talks to him in a way that he understands prior to him leaving as to his social health. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I pride myself on being able to communicate with my patients in a way that they can understand. I give lectures around the world to medical groups and physicians, and I can wax eloquently and speak Latin in every medical term that you like. But that is a foreign language to people who don't speak it. So you may as well be speaking Spanish or French or anything else when you're doing so. So the point, it doesn't matter that I know. The point is that I have to make sure that you know and understand. You need to know what your disease state is, what the diagnosis is, what does it mean, what outcomes you can expect. You need to know what prescriptions, what your medications are. And I fuss all the time about, you can't tell me I take the blue pill or I take the little brown pill. No, you need to be able to pronounce it. You need to know what it is. You need to know what it's for. You need to know what the potential side effects are, because people say, oh, I stopped taking that medication because it did this and it did that. No, the medicine couldn't possibly have done that. I say, not saying that didn't happen to you, but it wasn't because of the medicine. It was something else, or coincidence, or you just got sick. And so, you have to take that extra time to explain to patients what they're suffering from and why you're treating them a certain way.
Mm-hmm. One thing I can't say about you is that one thing that you sign an agreement for you to be a doctor for anybody is that if you don't take your medicine as prescribed, you have the right not to see them. I had to tremble on that question one time, but I wouldn't reject it out. But I guess
and again, you don't have to take medicine. We have to come to an agreement. If you have a medicine that you say doesn't work for you, or you don't like the way there's never just one medicine to treat anything. And it doesn't matter what it's supposed to do if it doesn't do that to you. As I like to say, if it's 1 out of 1 million people that has this side effect and it happens to you, it's 100%. So it doesn't matter what the other 999,000 people tolerated just fine. So there's always another option. Most medications have 5 or 6 drugs that do the same thing. Some, for blood pressure, for instance, that's probably 30 or 40 options you have to treat people. So we can always find something. I don't want you to take a medicine that's going to make you feel worse than the disease state. And that's the other thing about high blood pressure. They call it the silent killer, because you don't have any symptoms until you do. You feel fine until you have a heart attack or you have a stroke. So it's important that I don't give you a medicine that's going to make you feel worse than not taking the medicine, because you're going to say, why would I do that? And I say, I do the same thing. I tell all my male patients, I'm not going to give you a medication to control your blood pressure that's going to negatively impact your ability to have sex and impair your ability to get a good and maintain a good erection. I say, know why? Because I wouldn't take it. There are many medications, particularly for the disease, high blood pressure. The first 3 or 4 drugs that the book says I should use on you all have that ability to affect you negatively. Cause weight gain, cause erectile dysfunction, cause a slowed heart rate, all kinds of, and depression. The top 4 drugs do all of this, and they're expected to do it, and that's what you're supposed to use. Well, no, because there are other options. And so I tell my male patients in particular, black, white, or indifferent, I said, I'm not going to give you a medication that's going to have a side effect panel that you won't tolerate, or that's going to cause problems that you did not have. And, everybody knows that blood pressure medicines can do that. And I have that discussion with men. I try to be proactive and tell them in advance, so they will say, well, I don't know whether I want to take that medicine now, because I hear it takes away your nature. And there are medicines that do that. But there are also drugs, other alternative drugs that don't. And so why would I choose the medicine that does to do that? So culturally sensitive healthcare, somebody that understands what you are, who you are, things you like to do, things you like to eat, places you like to go, all those things. That is so very important in understanding how I need to treat you. A very simple example of this: had a patient that was a truck driver. He had been seen by another doctor. The doctor put him on a high dose diuretic, a water pill. Now, this guy was a truck driver. Okay. He was having to stop, pretty regularly to go and urinate. But, they track you on GPS nowadays in these trucks. And so they were following him and thought that he was doing something nefarious. And so they were about to fire him until I explained to them that he was stopping because he had to urinate. Because the blood pressure medicine that he has, he had to urinate. But guess what? There were 100 other drugs he could have been on. So we changed his medication, changed that. He was able to continue driving, saved his job. He had been working for this company for 23 years, and they were about to fire him because they thought he was hanging out at truck stops doing nothing instead of working for them.
Yeah. Well, Dolores has a question for you, Doc. So
yes.
I have a question that's come on Facebook. It seems like men are so resistant to see the person that can help them, the doctor. Why is that?
Again, because they're not introduced to the concept of healthcare. They have to really allow the doctor to be more intimately involved with them, particularly in taking your clothes off. All men that are over 40 are so afraid they're going to get a prostate exam every time they go to the doctor, and you don't have to, but you do need to at least once, one time a year during your comprehensive physical examination. So it's important that they understand what to expect, because it's a mysterious situation for them. And most men are, strong-willed, and they like to be in charge of themselves and their bodies. And now you walking in the room and I'm saying, take your clothes off, and I'm saying, do this. So unless they feel comfortable with you, then it's going to be a problem. And so the entire process, it is a process. I tell patients the first time they come in, I say, don't worry, we'll be good friends before it's over. But right now, do this, and till you get to know me better and I get to know you better. But we're going to work together with the same goal and objective to optimize your health.
Well, I'm glad I'm not like that.
Well, we do, so that helps. Tremendous. But we have a good time in there because we socially interact. But we also, when it's time to get serious, we get serious. And I tell people, as long as I'm having a good time, you having a good time. But when I get serious, then it's time to get serious. But if I tell you something, and and you get serious about it, I'll tell you, no, this is all good. No, not a problem. Don't worry. This is okay. We can take care of this, etc. So we have to make sure that we communicate very well when we're in those situations.
Doc, you talked about 3 diseases earlier that prevalent among Black families. Talk to me a little bit about the symptoms of those diseases and what should happen.
Okay, good. Let's start off with diabetes. Most people have type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is really an autoimmune disease state, and it usually presents itself at a very young age. So children that are usually slim, underweight, and they're insulin dependent. They have to take insulin because their pancreas has been insulted by antibodies of some sort. Again, usually an autoimmune type function. And so their pancreas can't make insulin. So they have to have exogenous insulin. That means insulin from outside of their body. And so that is one disease state. That's a totally different thing. What happens to us as adults is type 2 diabetes, usually associated by the time you get 20, 30 pounds overweight, then you start to become insulin resistant. And that makes it more difficult for your body to metabolize carbohydrates and sugars. Well, symptoms that happen when your blood sugar goes up. You get thirsty. You're thirsty all the time. Which means you're drinking, and then so you're urinating all the time. So I get men that come into the office because they're urinating 4 or 5 times per night, which you say, well, that's not bad. Well, yes, it is, because you're getting up and urinating and you're breaking your sleep cycle. So not only now are you having to get up, but you're waking up fatigued. And when you're tired and you have diabetes, it just strains and stresses your body greatly. So you're hungry all the time, you gain weight, you're thirsty, and you have frequent urination. Those are the main symptoms of diabetes. When you have uncontrolled weight loss, because your body literally is metabolizing itself. I have people that come in with weight loss. When they first start losing the weight, they're happy about it. All their friends are saying, oh, you look great, you're losing weight. But then they start to lose too much weight and they start to look ill, sick. And then they're scared that they have cancer or that they have something else like HIV or some other disease state that makes you lose weight. Then they're afraid to go to the doctor because they don't want to be given that horrible diagnosis. And so, and sometimes they're relieved. I say, no, you don't have cancer. You don't have anything else. You have diabetes. They say, oh, it's just sugar. Oh my goodness, they minimize. What I say, no, let's embrace the need that this is a problem that we need to address. So the diabetes itself, those are the main symptoms that you can have. Unfortunately, with high blood pressure, there are no symptoms. Once again, that's why you call it the silent killer. There are no symptoms until you have a symptom. People that think they can tell when their blood pressure is up are wrong 99% of the time. They say, oh, I got a headache. My blood pressure must be up. And sometimes it is because of the pain of the headache that can make your blood pressure go up. But that means the elevation in your blood pressure is secondary and not primary. That means the high blood pressure is not what's giving you the headache. It's the headache giving you the high blood pressure. And so, but most of the time, there's no correlation. There's not a single symptom that correlates with blood pressure that you can know about and count on. So people that think they can't. A lot of people, they have high blood pressure medicine and they only take it, quote, when they feel like their blood pressure is up or their blood pressure is too high. Now, there's one caveat. When you have malignant hypertension, that's when it's so high, the numbers are off the chart. Then, yes, there are signs and symptoms. You can have altered mental status because you're basically having a stroke. And you can have weakness or paralysis on one side of the body. It's always one side of the body. If you get total weakness all over the body, that's just the disease state is taking all of your energy. But when you get, you have a stroke on the right side of your head, it affects the left side of your body because all the electrical phenomenon, the cables in your brain switch sides at the bottom of your neck. So everything on the right side of your brain goes to the left side of your body and vice versa. So no problem there. With high cholesterol, sometimes there are symptoms because you start to get cholesterol plugging your arteries, particularly to your heart. You can start getting fatigue. You can start getting angina or chest pain that's associated with activity, or you can get chest pain associated with having a heart attack. But, by the time you get that, you're at the latter stages of the disease state. So prior to that, there are really no symptoms for high cholesterol either. So how do you know whether you have these things? You go to the doctor and have performed a comprehensive physical examination that would check your blood pressure, that will do blood work, that will check your cholesterol. And it's very important. Some people say, well, I don't want to get any blood work drawn. Don't stick that needle in me. Well, that's the only way to find out some of these things. And so when you go, make sure that you have a comprehensive blood panel, not just one or two tests. Some people will come in and ask me, oh, I just want to get my blood sugar checked, or I just want to get my cholesterol level. But you don't want to just get your cholesterol. You want to get a comprehensive lipid panel that includes the total cholesterol, the HDL or good cholesterol, the LDL, the bad cholesterol. That's the one that makes you have a heart attack or a stroke, and your triglycerides. It is very important because each one of those independently can cause various types of hyperlipidemia and put you at higher risk for a heart attack or a stroke. So it's important that you know all of them, not just one of them. Same thing with a full thyroid panel. You want a comprehensive metabolic panel that checks your kidney function, your liver function, and your electrolytes. Same electrolytes that they have in Gatorade: sodium, potassium, carbon dioxide, and chloride. Those 4 things. Those are the things you want to have monitored. So it's important that you get, when you go, you get everything checked out, because that's the only way to find things unless you have an event. And then the emphasis is placed on getting you through that life-threatening event. That's why if you notice, you go to the emergency room, they only treat what you came in and complained about, even if you have other problems, and they may find other things wrong with you, but their objective is not to treat you. Their objective is to get you through that crisis and then have you follow up with somebody else to take care of those problems. But people will say, I went to the emergency room and they told me I had this, but they never followed up with anybody. They get sick again, they go back to the emergency room. People use the emergency room as their medical providers, and every time they go, they're in crisis. So they're getting compromised care, if any care at all, and they're always putting themselves at risk for a bad outcome.
Mm-hmm. So, Doc, let me just say this, because I've heard this 1,000 times from people. Some people just don't like to take pills, all right?
Yes.
And they believe wholeheartedly, some people really believe there's some connection between the distributor of medicine and the doctors, all right, in terms of making money for both of themselves. How true do you think that is? I hear a lot of that.
Well, no, that's not true. I don't get a penny for any medication that I write. And again, I hear that all day, every day. I've never been on any medications. I've never needed any medications until you do. And at some point, it's the lesser of the evil, because everybody says, well, I'm going to try to do it with lifestyle changes. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to start eating clean. And sometimes they actually do all of those things, and they still don't control the disease state. Let it be known, the first 3 things I'm going to tell you is to make sure you're getting enough sleep every night, make sure that you're eating a healthy diet, and make sure that you're getting exercise. I'm going to tell you that if you come in with high blood pressure, if you come in with an ingrown toenail, that's all part of the prescription. So it's not either or, it's in addition to. The same thing with supplements. I have people that will come in with a bag with 15, 20 different types of vitamins and herbs and all these things, when they could take one pill that could fix what the real problem is, but they don't want to do that. But they literally will they line the pills up proudly. I take this, I take omega-3, and I take curcumin, and I take turmeric, and I take all of these things. And I say, but are your symptoms relieved? Well, no, I still have so-and-so. Exactly. So just add the one prescription medication to all the other things that you're doing. And, and I have no problems with supplements. I highly promote them. I have my own line of supplements for a variety of different disease states. So I take them myself every day. But if I had to take a prescription medication, if I get an infection, then I need to take an antibiotic. There's no, herb or juice or anything else is going to cure that. You're going to have to take antibiotics. And people will readily accept that, but they don't want to take a blood pressure pill or medicine that will lower their blood pressure or a drug that will lower their cholesterol.
Well, Doc, if you look at TV every day, the drug companies are prescribing stuff for different diseases, but sometimes the side effects is worse than what I think the cure is.
Oh, exactly. And when you see that, they tell you 2 good things about the drug and give you a list of 50 things that could go wrong, including death. It always has including death on there. So it is amazing that they could sell anything, because they have to disclose. The FDA requires them to disclose the side effects and potential side effects of a medication. And indeed, I'm going to do the same thing with patients. But what I don't like to do is to give the patient a list of potential side effects, because then I will talk them into having every one of those side effects. So I say, if it's a major side effect, yes. But other than that, I say, take the medication and tell me how you feel. And 99% of the time, you're not going to feel any differently. Particularly, you don't feel any way when your blood pressure is up. When your blood pressure is down in control, you don't feel any differently. That is what my goal and objective is. I want you to take the medicine, but not feel as if you're on medication for any reason. I don't want you to feel impaired in any way. I don't want you to feel that you're slowed down in any way. I just want, when I check your blood pressure, I just want to be able to tell you your blood pressure is normal. And I tell you, you're not going to feel it differently. That's what we're trying to get to. But again, a lot of medications do have side effects, and that needs to be discussed. But if that happens to you, you never, ever, ever have to take a medication that has side effects because there's always another option. Even in things like chemotherapy medications, used to make you sicker than the cancer you were being treated for. Nowadays, they have much better drugs that don't do that. They have medications that won't make you lose your hair. When you have a cancer, they have medications that can target the cancer cells and don't do damage to the normal cells. Right. The traditional chemotherapy was basically giving you a high enough dose of poison to kill the rapid metabolizing cancer cells versus the slower metabolizing normal cells. And you would hope that you would kill more cancer cells than normal cells, and there would be enough left of you to recuperate and heal yourself after you finish your rounds of chemotherapy. Right. Well, that's better now. So, it's not like it used to be at all.
Okay. We have a question for you, Doc.
Okay.
Can supplements raise your blood sugar?
There are some supplements that can raise your blood sugar. There's some supplements that can raise your blood pressure. So you have to be very careful about what you're taking when you have a certain disease state. And that, and I tell people all the time, don't buy your supplements at the bulletproof gas station, because virtually every gas station in town now has a lot of medicines there, a lot of supplements and energy boosters and things for erectile dysfunction and horny goat weed and all this stuff. One, you don't even know what's in those things, but two, the vast majority of them have stimulants and things that can make your blood pressure go up. Even the things they sell, like these energy drinks. Boy, if energy drinks had to pass FDA scrutiny to be on the market, they wouldn't be on the market because the side effect profile is so high for all of the things that they do. The amount of caffeine, they cause racing heart, tachycardia, all kinds of problems. The amount of sugar. I did not know that some of the energy drinks have 44 teaspoons of sugar in each bottle. 44 teaspoons of sugar. I was doing a presentation on how to rehydrate yourself after exercise. Mm-hmm. And the most common rehydratants that you hear and you see every day being marketed in basketball games and football games and everything, 44 teaspoons, that's more than Coca-Cola as far as sugar is concerned. So those are not the ideal thing, particularly if you're diabetic. So, it's very important that you know what you're putting in your body.
Just to piggyback over that a little bit, Doc, you also see on television where people are prescribing things to you like hymns and other folks, and they'll ship it, but they'll let you talk to a doctor, and then for folks' confidentiality, they'll ship it in a package that's not recognizable.
Yeah, a little brown paper bag, a brown box with writing on it, right. All kinds of things. And so I was really shocked and surprised that, that's technically not legal in the vast majority of states, yet there's no one policing this activity. So the companies would, they just started doing it, and now they're just really all over the country. It metamorphosized. There were strict rules for telemedicine presentations. And so you and I have done telemedicine before. There's strict rules as to how you do it, what you can do with a telemedicine prescription, etc. And you have to be a qualified doctor and all those things. And you also have to be in the state of which you're treating the person. But you may go online to one of those companies, and that doctor is not even in the United States, maybe in Canada, maybe in Africa, maybe someplace else. And they are prescribing these medications. They usually ask you 2 or 3 questions, and that's about it. I don't think a single person has ever been denied one of those medications if they wanted it. And they say, yeah, basically, are you breathing? Yes, you can have it. Is your credit card good? You can have it. Really a thorough medical evaluation performed as a part of that. So I tell people, don't get your medications on the internet. You need to have a one-on-one with your doctor. And, worst thing that happens is people buy stuff and then bring it to me to ask me about it. What do you think? Or does this go with my medications and all that? And I got to spend time doing that when they could have come to me from the beginning and got, treated for those disease states.
Well, one thing I like about you is that when you do the test, you don't come into the room and say, okay, you're doing good. We want to see you back in 6 months. You kind of go line by line.
Exactly.
Test and explain. And the unique thing was that you actually give me the test. And I'm like, okay, I never said that done before.
Give you the test and have type notes on it so you know exactly what it means and what you want to do about it. Like, for instance, if your vitamin D level is low, I'll say, vitamin D level is too low. Take this. This is how you take it right next to the lab test so you can relate those 2 things. They have this thing called My Chart now that everybody gets their lab results on their cell phones. And so they walk in here with the cell phone ready, and they show, I got these tests done. What does this mean? What does this mean? And I say, when I didn't order the test, I don't know. But patients don't like that disconnect, because even when they had the results in their hand, it literally doesn't mean anything to them. And again, I saw a patient today. She had results from August of last year. She had 4 significant and substantive abnormalities in her blood work. They never called her to tell her about it. All they did was just send her the lab results. She had access to them. She never followed up on it. And I said, look at this. You have this problem. You have this problem. I said, nobody talked to you about that or offered to treat you? No. And so that is where the disconnect is. And that was during my training period, that was totally inappropriate. But that's where we are now. And that's being tolerated, that they say, as long as they get the information to you, then it's up to you what to do with it. And, that's like me handing you a book in Chinese and saying, here, read the Bible in Chinese, or read the Muslim book in the Muslim language. That you just can't do it. And when you do, you might pick out 1 or 2 words, but all you know is that it should be in the green and this one is in the red. What does that mean? What do I do about it?
Well, I know that one of my other physicians is Dr. Bennett, and I know that you and Dr. Bennett talk about what's happening with me. I assume you do. I know you do. How important is that when you're seeing a patient that or you have some relationship with the other doctors they may be seeing that may be specialists in some way?
Oh, that is so important, Bill. Again, culturally sensitive healthcare and doctor-to-doctor communication. Doctor-to-doctor communication. When I was training, when I was the chief resident of the hospital, I got to know all these doctors and various specialists. I have their phone numbers. I have their cell numbers. I can reach them anytime. They can reach me at any time. When oftentimes, for instance, let's use Dr. Bennett. You be in the room with Dr. Bennett, he'll call me and say, I got your patient Bill Edwards right here, and this is what we did today, and this is what we're going to do. What do you think? Or this is what I changed. Nowadays, there's a disconnect. I can't even get doctors to talk to me. I try to call the offices and it goes to a voicemail, or they'll say the information is available on the internet if I'm eligible to enroll into this particular medical record, which that is another problem, that most of the doctors' medical records are different and they don't talk to each other. So if I'm not a Wellstar physician, if I'm not an Emory physician, I cannot get that information unless they send it to me. But I can't just go and get it passively, which now means I got to talk to the doctor. I had a personal experience. One of my relatives, my mother, was in the hospital, and I called the doctor. I said, I need to talk to the physician that's caring for her. And they would not literally let me through. I said, I'm sorry. I said, this is Dr. Collier. If I didn't make that clear, I know who he is. I know the doctor. He'd be happy to hear from me. And they said, well, no, we can let you talk to the nurse. I say, this is above nurse grade. I need to know. Nurse can't tell me anything I don't already know. I need to share some things with him so that they'll know. And so it was just blocked. And I was just shocked. And when I told him about it, he couldn't, but when we finally did speak, he couldn't believe it. But I told him, I say, I cannot, before I said, this is Dr. Collier, I need to speak to Dr. Jones. They get him to the phone immediately, and now that just doesn't happen.
Oh, okay. You got another question, Doc?
Okay.
I have 2 questions.
2 questions.
Is that considered coordinated care? And the other question is, why do doctors resist coordinated care?
Okay, that is called uncoordinated care. That's the first care. Again, when you have the patients that are seeing 5 different doctors, they're seeing a stomach specialist, for women, a GYN, they're seeing a cardiologist, they're seeing a kidney specialist. All these people, if they are not talking to each other, and that's why one of the things that I do, I tell the patients, I say, look, I'm going to be your quarterback. You need one person that's calling the game here. And so I say, when your doctor, they don't communicate with me in real time, then you need to make sure that you tell them I'm your primary and they send me your records from that visit that day, or as soon as those records are available, so I can sit down and look at everything and see, worst case scenario, patients, they add a medicine that's in conflict with something the patient is already on and they don't know because they didn't look. 2, they stop something that I was doing, and I have perfectly good reason to do it. They don't know what the reason is, so they just stop it and change to something else for no apparent reason. Don't tell me that. The patient then goes to fill my prescription and then goes to fill their prescription. The pharmacy isn't coordinating these things because sometimes they're getting mail order. Sometimes they get, for acute drugs, they'll go to the Walmart, the Walgreens, the Kroger pharmacy or whatever. And none of these are talking to each other. So it's important that you do what I do is what's called medication reconciliation. Bring every medicine that you're taking to my office and let's go through everything to see what you're taking, make sure that everything's compatible and that it should be coordinated. But that requires a special effort. One, that was the way that I was trained, and two, that's the way that I practice. A lot of doctors don't do that. They don't take the time, particularly if they are employed physicians. Employed physicians are on a treadmill. They're required to see a patient every 7 to 10 minutes. And you just cannot do that and practice effectively. But that is where medicine is now. It is a business more so than a care gram. They're not trying to get you better. They're trying to get you through it until the next person, you know, and so problem.
You got another question here.
Well, a statement came in. A friend's attending physician refused to communicate with her cardiologist while she was hospitalized.
See, that's exactly what I was talking about. Now, if the doctor refused to do that, that means they don't have their best interest at heart. They might need to find another doctor. But there may be I cannot think of a reason for that. There may have been a reason for it. I can't think of one that would say, "Oh, now I understand." But but you need to have doctor-to-doctor communication. I took 2 calls today from patients that are hospitalized. When that doctor came in the room, they put me on the phone with the doctor. And I tell them to do that. One is in Louisiana. They in New Orleans on a trip and got sick and had to be hospitalized. They had to run to the hospital via an ambulance last night at midnight. And so the doctor, doesn't know him from Adam. They were so glad that I was available and willing to talk to them. That was the other thing. You got to be willing to talk to them, that I did know the patient and knew his medical history without, any other issues. So that changed the whole course. Stopped them from getting unnecessary CT scans and MRIs, because the objective is to do as much diagnostic testing, not to cure you, but just to do as much diagnostic testing, because that's the business of medicine. They never saw a CT scan they didn't like.
Well, everybody, I think it's important. I know people wish they had the kind of relations with their doctors or their family practitioner. Everybody doesn't. And I know some people would like to gain that kind of respectability with their doctors. What do you think they can do to do that?
Well, one, they need to request it. One, you're paying for the doctor's time and energy and effort. Your insurance company is, or you. And you tell them, look, sit down. Let's have eye to eye. Put your computer down, because some doctors walk in with a computer. They never even look up at you. They just on the computer typing nonstop while they're talking to you. And so let's talk about what my concerns are. I tell patients, write down what your concerns are before you go to the doctor and go down your list. Now, they're not going to be able to talk about 15 things. So let's be honest about that. That's not going to happen. But pick your top 3. And then in particular, if these things are related. And then say, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I need my prescriptions refilled. Make sure you've gotten everything that you need out of that visit. Because again, the doctor's on a timeline. He's going to come in, see that you're alive and breathing, say, okay, good, you're fine. Do you need refills? And walk out the door. You haven't even begin to address what you came in there for. So many times I say, well, what did the doctor say when you saw him? He didn't say anything. He wasn't in there 2 minutes. Sometimes they never even touched me when they came in. They didn't examine me at all. They just looked at the chart and said, oh, I need this, and walked out. So it can be a problem. So you have to respectfully request, not demand. You don't get anywhere with people, confronting them and fussing and cussing. That's not the point. But let them know what your expectations are, and in a cool, calm manner, tell them sit down and give you the time that you need.
But lastly, before you close, Doc, I want to talk to you. We got to talk to you about this. Well, we got 10 minutes, so we'll use them wisely. In plaguing Black communities, and we're trying to do what we can to bring the best care to our communities, and that is the lack of hospitals past I-20. It's
below I-20.
Below I-20. I'm sorry, below I-20. It's
outside of town.
Yeah, it's a fundamental issue, and I know that it comes to the issue of a needs analysis for hospitals. But we have some hospitals that have been vacated that I think that we should be able to have them moving again. And I think people like Morehouse School of Medicine and others maybe at some point in time can come in and take over those facilities and give us the kind of care that we need in our community. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. As an alumnus of Morehouse, that has been one of my key proponents, because Morehouse as a medical school needs its own facility. when Morehouse opened up, it partnered with Grady Hospital and Emory Hospital to share space. But there's disorders. Emory still has control over a lot of the hospital policies and things that they do. When the Morehouse doctors will come in training, sometimes they'll be in the operating room, but they're in the back of the operating room, not even the same zip code with the patient. And the Emory doctors are right there, literally working on the patient and actually learning. So that condition, you would think that this has been going on now for 30 years. You would think that would have improved, and it's actually recycling back to some of the same issues that we had 30 years ago. Doctors getting and maintaining privileges at hospitals downtown, hospitals being on south of I-20. When you have a hospital system, that means you got multiple hospitals. For instance, let's use WellStar as an example. You spread the wealth. You have hospitals on the north side of town that are, that are taking care of a higher end clientele, people with better insurance, more money, etc. Then that hospital is making a phenomenal amount of profit. There's no hospital. All those hospitals are supposed to be non or not for profit. They're all for profit. Okay, the business model is non-profit, so they can have tax advantages, but they're all for profit. But if you got 9 hospitals, 5 of them are doing extremely well, 3 of them are doing good, and 1 or 2 are being underserved, and they have a challenging patient population, a lot of people who don't have insurance, etc. Then you take the money from the hospitals that are making lots of money and you use it to support the other hospitals. That's the way it has always been before medicine became a business. Now they make a decision and say, well, this hospital is losing money. No hospital ever loses money because the feds will support them if they provide complimentary care. They get money from the federal government. They sometimes take that money and still don't use it for patient care, but they accept it based on the fact that they have indigent care. We have a lot of indigent patients to come in, and so that is the storyline that is being put forth. So what happens is they made a conscientious decision to close Atlanta Medical Center, which devastated the community. Then on the south side of town, Southern Regional closed. So now you have no hospitals basically until you get to Macon. And so you got to, and since there's no public transportation to the north side of town that works for people on the south side of town, they don't have access. And so not having access is a more important problem than having high-tech hospitals available or having better medications available or even having doctors. A lot of them don't even have doctors because the doctors have to be near hospitals. And so if you don't have that, a lot of the doctors that were in and around Atlanta Medical Center had to close their doors, because they were intimately involved with the hospital being in close proximity to them. And if there's no hospital, they can't function. They can't operate. You have surgeons that didn't have a place to operate all of a sudden. You had OBGYNs that didn't have a place to deliver the babies. And so this has devastated the Atlanta community. And this is not going to go away. And we need to make sure that we are up to the challenge, that we are not going to tolerate this, because right now we're tolerating it. And the tenure of time is becoming less of an issue because people are kind of forgetting about it until they get sick. And you can't go to Grady. Grady is overwhelmed with the patients that they have now. In particular, they were already overwhelmed, but now since they are literally the only hospital, you go down there, for routine care. If it's not life-threatening, you may sit there for 8 hours to be seen or longer. And this is a problem. This is a problem. We need to try to fix this. It's one of the things that I know as a politician, you emphasize healthcare, and we really need to get a quality healthcare facility up and open on the south side of town.
Okay. Another question from outside.
So how do we combat this problem?
One, thank goodness that we do have a mayor that's sensitive to it and it has the power to do some things about it. And since he has not allowed that property downtown to be basically repurposed and sold for condominiums, the possibility exists that it can still be reestablished as a hospital facility. But Morehouse School of Medicine actually had obtained funding to purchase the facility. They went in with a check, with money. We want to buy it, we want to take it over. And they would not listen to them or consider that proposal. Know why? They didn't want the competition on the south side of town. They rather have the patients going to the north side of town. So, this is it was a conscientious corporate decision to do that to people who are compromised. They don't have power. They don't have money. Oftentimes they can't vote. So it's a population that they're ignoring because they don't feel there are any consequences to not taking care of this community. But if you have this problem in Atlanta, where we actually do have a little power and we actually do a few things, and we don't have this, and other cities can deal with this, and Atlanta can't. No, we have to do some things here to make this work.
This concept of urgent care, they're popping up everywhere.
Yes.
I mean, how much effect does it have on our issue of having affordable and closely aligned medical services? Urgent care is opened up everywhere.
Closely aligned, no, that is part of the problem. But some of the urgent care centers are actually operated by the hospitals. Piedmont has a string of urgent care. Wellstar has a string of urgent care. Emory has a string of urgent care centers. And so they try to operate as a hybrid. They try to provide primary care services. In other words, that can be your doctor. Whoever's at that urgent care center can be your doctor. But it also gives you an opportunity, if you don't have a doctor, to get urgent care, not emergent care. And most of the time, it is just urgent care. You have an earache, you have a toothache, you have, a respiratory tract infection. That's not really an emergency room situation. And that is the problem why the emergency room is being overwhelmed by people that are going for those types of problems versus those that are having true emergencies. And so urgent cares have a good place in the hierarchy of medicine, particularly those that practice as a hybrid. I started off when I came back to Atlanta. I was the medical director at a system of urgent care centers. We had 18 centers strategically located in and around the city of Atlanta. It was called Prime Care. It was absolutely incredible. The problem, they can't do that now. If they do that now, it would be a perfect introduction to the healthcare center. We had 18 centers, and guess what our model was? Wherever there was a Waffle House at an exit off of 285, we put an urgent care. So people had no trouble finding us. And so I was the medical director for those centers, and we were doing great until they got a consultant from either Brown or Yale University who told them that they needed to concentrate on managed care. And so they changed them from really urgent care, primary care centers where I had patients that were my patients, to centers for managed care where they were just taking, basically anybody could sign in on the various circumstances. So when they changed that business model, they were closed and shut down and bankrupt in 1 year. And I've been in private practice ever since, using their same model, basically.
Last question for me, and we're probably going to close it after this, is that is one of the obstacles we've always been put up against in terms of finding or getting a medical facility on this side of town is the issue of obtaining what is called a certificate of need.
Yes. It's the right acronym, CON. It's a CON. So, every year in the legislature, they try to come up with a way to stop that or block it or just change that law so that people can set up, it makes it difficult for doctors in private practice to set up surgical centers. Dr. Bennett was trying to set up a surgical center and couldn't do it because they wouldn't grant him a certificate of need. And so it stunts your ability to practice your craft, but also it stops other hospitals from coming up and being, quote, competition, because you have to go through the legislature to get the certificate of need, and a lot of people don't have the funding, the time, the energy, the effort, the lobbyists, all of those things that are necessary to finally accomplish that. Because every time there was a hospital trying to get a new certificate of need, including the old Southwest Hospital, when it closed and finally lost its certificate of need, we tried to reestablish it with the support of another company. Well, Emory, Wellstar, all of them partnered to block that certificate of need. And so they all become partners to stop anybody else from getting into the game when you're doing that. So that is a big problem. And that is something unique, not just to the state of Georgia. There are lots of states that do that, but there are others that are just open access. And so if you got the funding, you want to open a hospital, you can do it.
Well, I know that's been a big block in front of us, even in the conversation we had. Well, Doc, you've been great for us today. I appreciate you in many ways. You're not here. You have another question?
Number website.
They want your number and your website, Doc.
Okay, I can be reached on all social media at AskDrMJ, Ask Dr. MJ. I have my own YouTube channel, Ask Dr. MJ, with hundreds of videos on how to obtain and optimize your health on a variety of topics. I have a website, LipoDrops.com, LipoDrops, that talks about, you can log on to that and find out about various types of supplements to optimize your health. Vitamin D, omega-3 fish oil, weight loss supplements. My world famous lipo drops are available on that site. And then again, my practice is here in Atlanta. I'm on the west side of town, one exit west of Six Flags on I-20, technically in Lithia Springs. My office practice is Atlanta West Primary Care. Yes, I'm taking new patients all day, every day. When you call, try to get in, if they say it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks, then take the appointment to be seen in 2 or 3 weeks. Versus me seeing you 6 months later and you saying I tried to get in, but they told me it would be 3 weeks, and now it's been 6 months. So
Yeah.
I have a full and mature practice. I've been practicing for a while. So open slots are rare, but we will work you in and we will get you in if you'd like to participate or you'd like me to be your provider. Come out and meet me. I'd be happy to get to know you better and take good, high quality care for you, because I take good care of my people.
Well, that I can say you do. I'm still here.
Amazing. What was the over and under on that, Bill?
And
And looking good. And that's the thing.
Good. I'm gonna look better too.
Well, I'm not sure you can look much better than you look. You look fantastic now. You're already a 10.
You got the Lord. You got the Lord talking about, oh Lord. Doc, I appreciate you so much for coming on today and to talk about, healthcare and family practice, and kind of, make people understand some things that they may have not understood before. So, my brother, I appreciate you, my friend, my
Thank you, Bill. And anytime you need me, I'm your medical ready reference, sir. Just call me anytime. I'll be happy to participate.
I know that. Well, thank you so much, Doc. I appreciate you. And,
thank you. Hey, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.